At the time of this recording, Bitcoin, for example, is stubbornly stuck in a range almost 40% below its peak value established last year. So the question many are asking is this an opportunity and is it going further? Now, before we dive in, this is a topic that elicits passionate responses. My goal is not to encourage you whether to buy or not to, but rather, as always, to challenge your thinking, to teach you to look below the surface so you can make those strong decisions to power your financial destiny. And in this case, there's a valuable lesson both for crypto, but one that once you understand the cycle, once you recognize it, you can apply it to any market. But back to crypto. It's established, it's accepted, it's not going anywhere. As a medium of exchange, it does a great job, but it's also increasingly used for speculation. But just because crypto is here to stay does not mean all currencies are created equal. And of the literally thousands and thousands of currencies that have been created, two have 75% of the market capitalization. So right out of the gate, if you're going to invest outside of those two, your risk has grown exponentially. And for various reasons, one of which is that of all of the currencies created in the last few years, over half of them have failed. But there's an important lesson to apply both to crypto and to other markets, and that is understanding the wave of enthusiasm. When any market or sector begins to develop an enthusiasm, it rapidly becomes a wave. And that wave is fed by narratives. Narratives are the way we describe something, the story we tell. It often comes across as news, but it's generally biased to a degree. The greater the wave grows, the more powerful and compelling the narratives become, and it becomes a feeding cycle, making that wave greater and greater, almost a tidal wave. And then in comes alternatives and opportunists. And at one degree, these aren't necessarily bad, but they begin to become warning signs. So alternatives, what are alternatives? Others who look at it and say, that's a great idea, we can recreate it. And in many cases, we can even do it better than the original. So alternatives are not bad. It's when the alternatives become excessive. What's excessive? That's a hard one to pin down. But the other one is opportunists. And those are the ones who aren't recreating it, but rather looking for ways to make money off of it. Alternative models. And one that we saw with crypto was companies who abandoned their prior business model, what they were doing before, and strictly became holding companies for cryptocurrencies. That's how they were going to be profitable. Now, in an alternative market, we see the same thing happening in AI right now. Allbirds, a shoe company. Now, if you're not familiar with Allbirds, they rapidly became very popular for their unique take on athletic and leisure shoes. But then that enthusiasm waned a bit, and they were recently bought out, and the company shifted to owning AI stuff. So is that an indicator that the AI enthusiasm wave is approaching its end? Not necessarily, but it is one of those warning signs that begins to tell you, pay attention, look closer, don't just assume. Remember, the more enthusiasm there is for any market, the more skepticism you want to maintain. So again, alternatives and opportunists begin to become those signs that maybe that wave is cresting. But here's the important lesson, the one that has frustrated so many I have seen for years, and that's understanding once that wave has crested, it has collapsed, regaining that same enthusiasm and momentum is more difficult than ever before. Now, that doesn't mean that the news, the narratives don't continue, and sometimes even more compelling, because remember, there's a hardcore group of enthusiasts in any market. But all the other challenges, there's one important one that is so profoundly difficult to overcome. And that's the recognition that no matter how compelling the news is, there is a segment of prior participants Those who were involved in that market, who helped drive it higher, who've moved on, they have found new opportunities. And no matter how compelling the news is, those narratives have become, their focus is somewhere else. The point is this: rather than allowing those continued narratives to influence you, is understanding there is a fundamental shift in that market. Those allow you then to see beyond the surface and to make those, rather than being sucked in and continually reinforced by those narratives, even though you may not be seeing the results, to step aside, disentangle yourself emotionally, and look for your own new opportunities. Now, am I saying don't invest in crypto? No. Crypto is an excellent medium of exchange that is more often used as speculation. And if you're enthusiastic about crypto, understand your risks, understand what you're getting into, but also understand you are speculating. And while I hope it is profitable for you, please, 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 if you're going to speculate, don't make it your primary focus. Allow it to be that maybe you play with. Cryptocurrency is here to stay. It's an excellent medium of exchange. It's an opportunity for speculation. But ask yourself, is the wave of enthusiasm going to recreate? Is it going to gain that same momentum? Or are participants focused on other opportunities?